Hey guys, so this is the eighth study vlog that I have, um, part of the studying JavaScript series that I'm doing. I'm Jacob Sanders, and these vlogs are basically just like my feelings and thoughts about going through this process, what I think is important, what I'm learning. Um, yeah, so sort of just like a consciousness dump, stream of consciousness. Uh, yeah, so I didn't get as many hours as I usually try and do. Again, for those of you that don't know, I don't actually like study for an hour straight. I time myself a lot, and I usually do like 45 minutes and like 15-minute breaks. Um, so I don't want you guys to think like, you know, you might have a different style and it might be solid chunks or whatever. Sometimes I'll do like 90 minutes if I'm feeling, you know, sometimes I take breaks, sometimes I don't, but I usually. So, anyways, it's just a loose system that I've developed over time that helps me stay motivated and spend a lot of time doing what I need to try and like accomplish my goals, right? So, um, so I feel all right. I feel all right about it. Things are actually clicking a little bit more, but I'm also a bit tired. Um, I think Mike's kind of far away, but whatever. Hopefully it picks stuff up. Um, some of the resources that I downloaded and started crunching through um, yesterday. I've continued doing. There's a couple different open source um, front ends that are just, you can just look at the code and they're all based on React. But it's interesting, there's a lot of permutations even within that. You'd think they would resemble each other, and indeed in some ways they do, but in other ways they don't. And that's just what's so amazing about programming in general, is like there's like 100,000 different ways to do stuff. Um, you know, whether it's how you want to make your CSS, what kind of libraries you use, whether you use React Router, whether you're using Material UI or you're using some other type of system. There's just so many different decisions that you can make. And reading through these different libraries really emphasizes that. I did some thinking about what I'm really trying to do, and if you go back even just one vlog, I have an idea of what I was trying to do, and I told you guys that. But when I'm going through these processes, it's like a constant evolution. So what I think and feel changes, like even overnight, right? And then it might come back to what it was before. So it's just in flux. And so I'm still kind of trying to figure out, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to just make a bunch of front ends? Am I trying to make really high quality front ends? Am I just, trying to make web apps? Am I trying to make stores? Am I not really trying to make anything at all? Do I need to have like a shared library of components that I'm using? What is it I'm doing? It's kind of weird because I'm so used to backend and Python, and there it seems more obvious what to do. You make these little modular components and you build up your own custom library and you just use it. And you can use everything everywhere. And you have like maximum privileges when you're writing code, right? And that's true for JavaScript too, but only in the back end. And that's not where I'm going to use JavaScript. So it's just a different ball game, right? You don't need any file I/O, and yet what's sort of confusing about some of these libraries that I've been reading is like they've got like database code in them, and it's like you're not calling that from the front end, you're calling that from the back end. And so they're obviously running a, you know, a dual stack, both JavaScript, where it might be something like Node or Express in the back end. But that said, yeah, it's it was, so I got probably 4 hours of studying, 5 hours of studying done. Was it 5? Yeah, I got about 5 hours done, which isn't bad. That's good. I mean, this is a really slow process anyways. I think I'm going to have maybe more clarity on day 31 or day 30, but I might not either. But part of the thing about this whole process is clarity is something that you develop over time. It's not something you can force. You can. A lot of people have deep conviction about stuff that they know so little about. They're picking a side so early in the entire thing, and I think this is partly just so that they can move forward and they're not as overwhelmed by just how much freedom you have. They want it to feel like they're not going to go down that direction, so they're like, they come to conclusions quickly and deeply, right? So they're like, fuck Material UI, or I'm not going to use Redux, or I don't know, whatever, right? I don't like to do that at all. In general, I like to keep a very, very open stance. I don't know if something's good. I don't know if something's bad. I'm open to everything, more or less. And only after seeing a lot about it and developing a deeper understanding can I actually make a decision. I think so many people want to make decisions about stuff because, like I said, it's overwhelming. They're impatient. They want to get to the success outcome immediately, right? They don't want to go through the challenge of actually having a reason, or knowledge to make the decision in the first place. So anyways, I'm in that process. I'm gathering my thoughts. I'll tell you this, today in the code that I read, probably some of the most frequent lines were, your React hook type things, like use state, use ref, use context. I think those are the main ones. And I never really used React hooks, even in the amateur type of. I made a lot of web GUIs, like websites, but I've just been an amateur the whole time, and I've kind of avoided really understanding a lot of stuff. There was some use of React component classes, but only in one of the libraries. That said, it was probably one of the most serious of the libraries. And when I say libraries, I mean these are people's apps. They're not really libraries, but they're a library. You could clone their library and use it as a dependency, I suppose, if you wanted to. Something that was cool was this thing called React Feather. I think I'm definitely going to use that because I've struggled in the past with Lycon things, and it looks like it'll be really easy to do that. Material UI looks interesting. It has this grid thing. Maybe that would be useful. I've seen some Stripe in a bunch of these projects, which is, I'm familiar with that. As you guys know, I've got an entrepreneurial spin on my programming. And so Stripe is kind of like at the crux of that. It's like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to accept payments. And Stripe is the way that, it's the only way that I've explored doing that, and only a little bit. I'm a real noob with it, but I've gotten a little bit further with it. I've gotten far enough for me to feel like I probably don't need to I don't want to mess with anything until I have to. There's just so much complexity to deal with all the time, between back end, front end, databases, cloud, DevOps, payment processing systems. It's just a clusterfuck of information. And, usually when this stuff is done in the real world, there's millions of dollars behind it because of some huge corporation, and they just pay a bunch of people that all specialize in one thing, and they've been doing it for like 10 or 15 years or 20 years or something like that. But when you're like me, you don't have money, and you have to kind of just figure out how to do it on your own. The alternative is you can try and find friends, but that's really difficult. And I'll tell you the reason why. Everybody already has lives going on, right? They already have lives going on. You don't have money to offer them. And they might move at a fundamentally different pace than you. And if everything isn't completely in sync between you and your friend, it's just going to fall apart. You're going to be like, let's move at, 2 knots per hour in this direction. And if they're not about that, if they're going too slow, probably going to develop resentment. If they're going in a different direction, probably going to develop resentment. Right? And if they don't have the same level of like persistence and determination and grit, probably going to fall apart, right? So, and yet there's no money either, right? Can't pay someone. Don't have billions of dollars. You can do sort of freelance stuff, but I'll tell you the problem with that. Say I wanted to have a web GUI made and I freelanced it. Now, I've never done anything like this, and I probably should try it out. I should try and actually use my money to do something. But my theory in my mind is like, this is not going to be nearly as good as you think. Because what you do is you go on some site like, I forget what it's called, but some freelance site, and like WeWork or Fiverr or something, but more maybe for like web stuff. And you're like, hey, can you make me a website? And they're like, sure, I'll make it. And you're like, you basically pay for the quality you get, but no. Like, maybe you're getting way better quality for something, and it's still not going to be good enough quality. Or maybe you're getting way worse quality, which is what you're really worried about. Throwing $500 to get a site and having it turn out better than you expected, that is a win technically, but it's not really, right? It's already probably a piece of shit. If you throw down $5,000 though to get a site, and like I said, I have no idea what these rates are. If you're doing like hourly rates, that's going to be really expensive, really fast. Maybe it would be the right way to go. But anyways, let's say you drop down $5,000 and it's worse than you expected. That's just kind of like really bad. And so from my point of view, the really bad thing about it is, 1, you've learned nothing. 2, you've spent money. And 3, you now have something that you have to maintain. And I'll tell you, these are all motivating factors for me to just do it yourself. Because 1, if you do it yourself, you learn how to do it, you have strict control over it, you understand how to maintain it better than if you hadn't done it, and it costs you $0, right? It's like a no-brainer to me. Indeed, it's much more difficult, but I mean, yeah, I mean, but at some point in time, you have to ask the question, is this even possible for a single person to do? all these different hats. Nobody really wants to be a master of none and like a jack of all trades. But maybe that's what you have to do for this. I'm not really sure. Kind of just like figuring it out. But anyways, this has been the strategy that I've chosen, I suppose. I'm not opposed to collaborating with people. I just haven't had good luck with that, and I can't throw out money for it, or I don't have optimism about throwing out money for it, and that might just be that I'm incompetent about knowing how to use my money correctly. That certainly could be true, but yeah. So that honestly, you think, is there anything else that I was thinking about? Yeah, I want to say this. This is the final thing before I bid my audience adieu. I've been thinking about, I'm really not in the business of building apps, right? I was asking that question earlier. I'm not building websites. I'm not building apps. Not building shops. I'm really building myself. That's what it sounds corny and cheesy, but there's a key difference, and that's why you don't want to pay for someone else to do anything, and you just want to focus on learning as much as possible and doing, and ignoring kind of the outcome of what you do in terms of financial success. That's, I guess, the main metric that people, I guess there could be clout success where you're not getting paid, but it's getting used. So it's like getting a lot of attention, and that can be converted into financial success, I suppose. But yeah, I'm not in the business of actually building applications as much as I'm in the business of trying to build myself into as effective person as I can be, and so that is going to involve making apps, making websites and shops, and I'm going to need as good skills as I possibly can for those things. But I need to think longer term, like whatever, you make an app, you throw it over here, it does something, maybe it's good, maybe it's not, whatever. The real thing to focus on is, are you building yourself, your core, your foundation, your ability to do more things? Not even like, are you building a library that you can use to accelerate the amount of apps you can make? Maybe that could be something that's useful to make, right? There's all these things that you can make that could be useful, but at the core of it is like, at least for me, it's that concept of just focusing on building yourself up, regardless of like any of the other stuff. So that's it for this vlog. I'll see you guys probably tomorrow. Maybe I won't have any extra ideas. Probably not. I always get a couple extra ideas. But yeah, thanks for watching. And if you like this stuff, you can subscribe, you can like the video, leave a comment. I don't even know why people say this. Everyone already knows this. What people don't know, well, you probably know this too, but if you actually watch anything, you can check out my blog. It's an amateur blog, but I'm pretty proud of it, and it's at pieharbor.com, and it's about programming, obviously. I'm pretty much all about programming, and thanks. So, peace, guys. Have a good night.